our edition. So Shmuel is an old man, but as we said yesterday, he's not actually that old. The point is, he's basically retired from the leadership position, and his sons are taking over, but they're not acting in the same way that he did. He went all out to try and make the judiciary available and easy and accessible and free of charge. And his sons did not do that. They built themselves a courthouse in Be'er Sheva, and if you wanted a court case, you had to go all the way. And it's actually interesting, I just saw that it's actually really out of the way. It's really inconvenient, because Be'er Sheva is like the furthest away from anywhere. Yeah. It's down south, right at the border of Israel. Today it's not, because Israel goes all the way down to Iran. Right? But the rest is just desert, so it's really inconvenient. I mean, I don't know why they built it there. Maybe they liked the desert scenery. I have no idea why they built it there, but it was inconvenient for people. The whole system they built gave lots of people jobs, their friends jobs, in this courthouse, but it wasn't. And the cost involved in going to court may have made it put people off from going to court, which ended cases unsorted, which is not good, which is a perversion of justice. Right. So that's why the pasuk then continues. Pasuk Dalet. Who are you? Moshe. Welcome.
Thank you.
Moshe what?
Milestone.
Yeah. So the people come. Let's see. Well, not the people. See pasuk Dalet on page 20. Vayiskabtzu. Okay, Vayiskabtzu means, come on, you know the word? Yiskabtzu from, come on, you read Hebrew?
I can read it, I can't.
That's good. Okay, kibbutz, you know what a kibbutz is?
A settlement, to settle, to sit.
No.
What pasuk?
Pasuk.
Woods, or
Dalet.
a commune.
A commune, not mean to share, means to get together. Everyone gets together. To congregate, right? So Yiskabtzu, right, means they got together. So they called a meeting. Who did? Kol Ziknei Yisrael, all the elders of Israel. So they all got together, and they made a meeting, and then together they came El Shmuel, they came to Shmuel. Haramasa, that means to Rama. Get that? The hay at the end means to. Ramasa is just
Rama with the hay changes to it.
very good. The feminine hay changes to a tough one. There's another hay at the end. So they came to Ramah, which is where Shmuel lived, and they wanted to speak to him. Shmuel had been the leader of the Jewish people for many years. We don't know exactly how many, 20, 30 years. And he was now retired. And his sons did not walk in his ways. Vayomru Elav, they said to him, Hine, behold, Ata Zakanta, you have become old. Zakan, Zaken. Well, for the purposes of the discussion, it's important to point this out. Okay, I mean, basically, you retired. Ubanecha loy halchu bidrachecha. Your sons have not gone in your ways. They've not followed your devoted ways of leadership, which are only to be concerned about spreading justice and Torah amongst the Jewish people. Your sons have not gone in your way. Ata, now. Ata with an I means now. Sima lanu melech, place for us a king. Leshaftenu, to judge us. A shofet is a judge. This is the verb, to judge us. Leshaftenu, and chol hagoyim, like all the nations. So this is not the first time Jewish people have wanted a king, but it's the first. Well, let's see. There was a time perhaps 150 years before this, but they asked, I think it was Gideon, if I'm not mistaken, one of the Shoftim, and he refused. Okay, now they came to Shmuel HaNavi, and they want a king. So something must have happened, besides just the fact that he's old. So what? His children are not following his ways. So what? Okay, something else must have bothered them, which, because this hasn't been the procedure up to now, king. So you can't actually tell from here, but later on in the story it'll become clear that they had started to be attacked by Goyim, by the nations around.
Like the Pelishtim, or?
I think it wasn't just the Pelishtim, it was probably the Pelishtim. I think this time was actually Ammon. Ammon, that's the name of the Ammonim, right? Where do they live?
Amman.
Today, correct, where's Amman?
capital of Jordan.
Capital of Jordan,
Oh,
right?
I've been there.
Same name, okay?
Yeah.
That's where the name comes from. Ammon,
Really
Amman,
good.
same thing.
We,
Really,
I guess the
right now.
context on what's going on,
Yeah,
high
cool.
level.
It's pretty cool.
The story started with the birth of Shmuel, right? The Jewish people have been in the land of Israel about 350 years. There's no temple, no monarchy, and we're about to change.
Not even the first one.
No,
It's prior.
there was a Mishkan,
Okay.
right? There's a tabernacle, which is a movable temple,
Yeah.
which is, that's the story.
So
Shmuel has it.
the Mishkan came to. I mean, obviously the Mishkan started way before when they were in the desert.
Right.
They maintained the Mishkan.
Absolutely.
In
They
Israel, all the way until
the base of Israel was built. It wasn't always in the same place. It got destroyed at one point, and it moved around. In one place, it was for 369 years.
Do they know where?
Yeah, in Shiloh. In Shiloh, it was for 369 years, and then it moved to Nov and Givon altogether for 54 years, and then the temple was built. So, Shmuel has been a very successful leader, got rid of the Philistines who had bothered the Jews, who had won battles and taken over areas of land which originally been under Jewish control, and under Shmuel's leadership, through his prayers and his leadership of the people, they had been very successful with God's help. That's where we're the story. Now, his sons didn't carry on his ways, and the people were looking for some new leader. Right? But instead of there's several things they could have done. Right? Shmuel's sons was not a candidate. They were not candidates because they didn't follow in their father. They weren't candidates. Okay, so there's lots of other people, aren't there? There's other people who can take Shmuel's place.
Yeah.
Right? Could have been. So there's several things they could have asked for. They could have asked for, Shmuel, please give us, you've retired, you're an old man, give us another leader. Now the leader doesn't have to be a king, could be a prophet like Shmuel. Or it could be not a prophet like the other Shoftim, Shimshon, Gidon, Ehud, Devaira, all these people in the story of the Shoftim, they weren't prophets, but they were great leaders. So the concept of the difference between a leader and a monarchy, the basic difference, I think the most basic difference is it's a dynasty. Exactly. Monarchy carries on, generally speaking, to the son, right? Not
Even when
daughters.
we had king, correct me if I'm wrong. Even when you didn't have kings, it wasn't a dynasty though.
I know. You're
So-
wrong.
so
I
that-
correct you. You're wrong. No, very much was. David HaMelech was a king. His son Shlomo was a king. His son Rechavam was a king. He went on. Ostar, Yoshaphat, Chizkiyo.
It wasn't always. It was always a dynasty.
Always a dynasty.
Even the
In the
times
northern kingdom, it didn't,
Right.
because then that's a different story altogether. But it's meant to be a dynasty.
That's where in the north where the corrupt kings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
This is
Generally, that's the difference between a leader who could be a prophet or not a prophet and a king. That's the basic difference. So, but they want to introduce that. Is that bad? Is it good? Is it better? Is it worse? You could have your own opinion about it, right? The question, what we really want to know was what's the Torah's opinion, right? What do you think is the advantage of not having a dynasty?
It could be anti-corruption.
Meaning, if you have a dynasty, it can be more corrupt because the king knows that he's in power, come what may.
Also,
Yeah, the king
also you
knows
don't want.
The king knows he's in power until death or overthrown. He knows that the kid knows that he's
Right.
Right,
royalty.
absolutely, right. So that's, for example, the reason why America moved away from the monarchy.
Right.
The Americans, when they moved away from England, and they came on the Mayflower, whatever it was, right? Because the monarchy, in their opinion, was corrupt. Okay? It persecuted, there was religious persecution under King Charles I or whatever, and Queen Mary, Queen Scots or whatever.
George III was the one we fought against.
No, not talking about the independence.
Oh.
I'm not talking about independence. I'm talking about the Pilgrims.
Oh.
Long time beforehand. Why did they move to America?
For religious freedom, from
Right.
persecution.
Okay. So I'm saying, yeah, you're right. And then when they made the Constitution many years later, they moved away from the monarchy. Okay.
Another reason is also like, let's say the king dies and they need a new leader. If you're in a monarchy, you're taking the son no matter if he's a good person or not.
Yeah, okay, that's basically the
You're
same.
not-
Right. It's the same with corruption. You don't get the best person.
Exactly.
Right? Right. What's the disadvantage of a monarchy? What's the advantage of a monarchy?
The advantage
Stability.
is, yeah, stability. You know who the next king is going to be.
Why is that good?
When the king dies, there's no succession. Well, if you...
Why is that? Why isn't it just elect the next guy? We'll have votes. The Sanhedrin will elect the next guy.
Can you trust the people to not do stupid things?
No, people. We're not talking about democracy. No, that's such a good
The
concept.
judges.
I meant that Sanhedrin will pick the next king.
But
They'll pick the best person for the job.
But then what about like?
Isn't that better?
what about confliction of interest?
What do you mean?
As in, like, this king will be working towards this and doing this whole, and the next king will come in and be like, no, let's go this way.
Why is that bad?
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, modern day democracy, like, they always try and, like, outdo the previous people and be like...
So what you're saying is, having elections every 4 years
We'll
doesn't
say
always
every-
bring out the best, because sometimes you do what's popular.
Right.
Instead of doing what's best
And
for
then you
people.
also try and diminish the people that were before you.
Well, yes, okay, if you don't like them, right? I think knowing, if let's say I want to make a program which is going to take me 10 years to do, right? So I want to make sure it gets done. I have to worry the whole time that I'm going to start it and the next guy's going to undo the whole thing.
That's not anti. I mean, you can still have just a longer period of time that they rule. But you can still have voting. Let's say it's a 20-year rule.
Then you get the opposite problem. Then he doesn't have to worry so much about what he's doing, because then it leads to corruption. So I think it's simple, right? You know, that's enough. We don't have to go more into it. But there's definitely advantage and disadvantage of the systems.
Yeah.
And the question is, what does the Torah consider the better system? So that's why when you see the Chumash, pass the Chumashim around. The Torah seems to approve of the monarchy, right? Obviously, the checks and balances of the monarchy are to the extent that the monarch is responsible to the judiciary. I mean, if the Sanhedrin, we'll call it, right, has the ability to depose the king, which it technically does, practically it's not so easy, because that's the problem when who the army is loyal to. Right? If the army is loyal to the king, then the king will be corrupt, can be corrupt. If the army is loyal to the judiciary, right, assuming the judiciary is not corrupt, because there isn't that much to do about it, right, then you have a better system. Right? So for example, today in Iran, that's the problem. The army in Iran is loyal to the Ayatollah, right? And that's why he can get away with what he wants, because whoever's in control of the police and the army is really in control, right? So it's supposed to be, the Sanhedrin is supposed to give instructions to the army, but does it really work like that? And practically, that's all the question.
Was Shmuel the leader of the army as well?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how to answer that. That means it's not recorded that there was any. That there was no. It's not recorded that was a systematic army duty. When the Philistines attacked, the Jews went and fought them. Did the army train? It's not recorded. Whether the army had weapons? No, it's not recorded. Well, obviously it must have been. No country can not have a standing army, right? Especially when you've got enemies around. But there's reason to believe, as we'll see later on, it wasn't like that.
What about when the Jews initially had to show?
Oh, then they had an army. But did the army train? Did the army have weapons? Did they have stockpiles? It's not us. They reported to Yeshua. Okay, so through the times of the Shaitim, they reported to the Shaitim. In Shmuel's time, there was one battle where Shmuel basically, we did it yesterday, he brought a sacrifice and he davened that God should help them, and then the Philistines, there was enormous noise and all ran away and the Jews chased them. Was Shmuel at the head of that chase? It doesn't say. So,
We don't know.
I can't answer it properly, I don't know. So is that the right thing? Is the Torah approve of a king? Is it a good idea? So let's see. The Torah has a whole section about it somewhere in Sefer Devarim, so we can find it. Yes, in the Book of
Which
Devarim,
is actually
called Deuteronomy. In Hebrew, it's called Mishnah Torah. I should have looked this up beforehand. It's somewhere
Devarim
here.
numbers.
No, Devarim is Deuteronomy. Number is. Numbers.
Yeah.
You know what? Can you pass the Tanach there, next to Asher? Pass it to me. That will be easier for me to find, because there's a thing at the back, an index at the back. So just look at the king.
They're not the index in the back of Humash.
You've got it in mind. Mine doesn't have. You can look it up. King. Here we go. Deuteronomy chapter 17. 17, I think that's it. 17.
What pasuk or no?
We'll find out very soon. Deuteronomy chapter, here we go. 17. No, it's not.
Shoftim.
17, 14. Oh, here we are. Okay, page 1029 in this. In yours, you have to look at chapter. You don't need that. You can take this. You got it?
Yeah.
Oh, you got it. Okay. So it says like this: when you come to the land of Israel that Hashem your God gives you, and possess it, and settle in it. So that seems to be a prerequisite to the next request. And you will say, I, meaning the Jewish people, not God, I will set a king over myself, like all the nations that are around me. It means the Jewish people want a king, just like every Goyish country has a king, the Jews want a king too. If that will happen, you shall surely set over yourself a king whom Hashem your God shall choose from among your brethren. Pause. From among your brethren shall you set a king over yourself. You cannot place over yourself a foreign man who is not your brother.
Does that mean?
So the basic message over here is trying to say, God is trying to say, you may not appoint a non-Jewish person as a king over the Jewish people. That's the basic message. There's another message which you could debate, which is God is telling you to appoint a king, right? But that's debatable. Why? Because it's not so clear. It might be saying, if you will say you want a king, then I'm not forbidding you to have a king. If you want a king, that's okay, But if you want a king, there are rules about how you do it. Just like if you want to get divorced, right? Not mitzvah to get divorced, right? But if you want to get divorced, there's a way to do it, right? It's the same thing. If you want a king, there's rules, which is you're not allowed to have a Goyish king, right? You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to have a lot of horses. You're not allowed to have a lot of wives. There's all sorts of rules. Okay.
Okay. In the footnotes.
Yeah, forget the footnotes. Forget the footnotes.
It says that it was a commandment.
Okay, I know it says in the footnotes, right? Okay, I want you to think for yourself. There's two ways you could read the context.
Yeah.
You could read the text, right? You could read like that, right? And it's a debate. That footnote's not telling you it's a debate, but it is a debate. It's a debate in the Talmud between the rabbis whether the Torah means you have an obligation to do it or, right? Okay, but either way, the Torah seems to put this possibility in only after a certain point. It says, when you come to the land that Hashem your God gives you, number one, and you possess it, number two, and settle in it. Okay, so the idea of having a king only is not in order to conquer the land. No, Goyim might do that, right? It looks like that only after things are peaceful and settled, that's when it's okay, or possibly a mitzvah, to have a king. Okay, and that's very important because the Jewish concept of a king is not a warrior king, someone whose job is to fight. The king might have to fight because there are enemies who attack, and he'll have to do that. That's not the point. That's not why the Torah wants us to have a king. Okay? I think it's very important with the story. Okay, but now it looks like the Torah's okay with it. The Torah has no objections to having it. It might even be mitzvah, which is the simple way to read it, right? Is even a mitzvah to have a king. Okay? So that's all the people are doing. They're coming to Shmuel and saying, look, we'd like to have a king. Yeah, look, it says in the Torah, right? Why shouldn't we? We've been here for 350 years already, maybe even longer, almost 400 years, and in the country, and we want to have a king.
They didn't really have a solid reason.
It says in the Torah, no. Isn't it a mitzvah? The note in the article says that it's a mitzvah to have a king, right?
Well,
so we want to do a mitzvah. You have to fill in, you have tzitzis, they want a king.
But I mean, like, after 350 years.
At some point, now it's settled. It's settled, land conquered, at some point. No,
why not 50 years ago?
I know. At some point, you have to make the decision, right? Okay, I know. So, what do you think?
So there was no. I don't know. There was
something. Well, there must have been a reason.
Well, they just said because his sons weren't following up for him.
That was the reason why they can't just be there, let them be the leader. In any case, you've got to appoint a new leader. Shmuel is old. His sons are not good candidates. We have to have somebody new. So I'm saying there could have been different approaches. They could have said, please find another prophet who'll lead us. Right? Or we'll appoint a king. And they picked king. Right? But like we've said, there's advantages to a dynasty, there's advantages to a non-dynasty, right? There's advantages either way, and they wanted that. Okay, let's be better. We'll go through the whole story, but I think that's the opening thing. Let's see how Shmuel reacts to this. Okay? And then, but that's the background in the Chumash. So what does Shmuel say? Vayomer Hashem. Vayera hadava be'einei Shmuel. Pasuk what? Vayera hadava means.
And feared? No.
From the word ra. What's ra?
See.
Bad. No.
Bad, yes.
Read
Bad. Reish ayin is bad. Vayera means, and it was bad. Hadava, the matter, be'einei Shmuel, in the eyes of Shmuel. I mean, Shmuel considered this bad. Kasher Amru. when they said, Tanach lanu melech, give us a king, leshavteinu, to judge us. He considered this bad. Yispalel Shmuel Hashem, so Shmuel prayed to God for guidance. What am I supposed to do? Should I say yes? Should I no? I think it's bad. Right? So that needs explanation. Why does Shmuel think it's bad when the Torah seems to approve of it? Maybe even commands it. Right? Why does Shmuel think this is bad? What did they say that made Shmuel see this in a bad light?
They're making light of his leadership.
Oh, okay. Means they're rejecting him.
Yeah.
They're saying, we don't like you. Means it's true, maybe he'd retired, but if his children weren't carrying on his ways, then bring him out of retirement. You know, he wasn't very old, right? He was only 50, right? Because he was 52 when he died. Okay? So, you know, at least that should be the first suggestion. Shmuel, we want you to lead us. No, but they don't do that. So he feels rejected. So when he says it was bad in his eyes, means he felt that they were rejected. It wasn't something spiritually bad about it.
Right, because you could interpret that like he was upset at them not asking him, or either they were upset that he didn't ask him, or he was upset that they wanted a king as an idea.
Okay, so that's my question. If they wanted a king as an idea, there doesn't seem to be anything bad about that, because the Apostle seems to approve of that. So Dylan is suggesting, no, that wasn't the problem. He was okay with that religiously. He just felt rejected. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. This is how God says. Continues. So God answered Shmuel, and he said, Shema b'kol ha'am, listen to the voice of the people. L'chol asher yomru elecha, concerning everything that they will say to you.
Will say.
Well, yomru literally means will say. Means,
Future tense.
yeah, that's future tense. In the context, it means what they've said and what they will say in the future. Yeah, yomru is they will say. Ki, for or because, Lai oischa ma'asu. It's not you who they have rejected. So Hashem said to Shmuel, it's not you who they're rejecting. So you see from God's answer what was bothering Shmuel, right? Shmuel's bothered by this, and God said, don't worry, it's not bad, it's not you who bothers you. So who are they rejecting? Ki oisi ma'asu, it's me who they're rejecting. That's what God says. Mimloich aleihem, from ruling over them. So, Melech is like king, melech, the verb to king. Mim melech, from reigning aleim over them. They're rejecting me from reigning over them. Now this is weird.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like that the request for a king is a rejection of God, as if God's got some problem. God wrote in his Torah that it's okay to request the king, and if we request the king, I have no problem with that. Right? So that was the reason why we didn't go along that route originally. We said, oh, it must be they're rejecting, that was Dylan's idea, they're rejecting Shmuel, but God said, no, they're not rejecting you, nothing bad about it, they're rejecting me. Okay? So I saw the following interpretation of how to understand what sort of the two ways to understand their statement, which is why Shmuel thought they were rejecting him, and God says they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. So let's go back to their request. Their request was as follows. Sima lanu melech, give us a king, lishavteinu, to judge us, k'chol hagoyim, like all the nations.
Wait, is this, that was just...
I'm going back in Pasuk Hey.
So the issue is like all the nations.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh.
Now, the question is, it can't be so straightforward, then Shmuel wouldn't have misunderstood it. Right?
God here needed to be straightforward.
What? And what I'm saying is, no. What's your name again? Moshe thought he'd chapped, means he'd realized what it was, what they said would clearly indicated they were rejecting God.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm saying, although he's right, I don't think it can be so straightforward, because then Shmuel wouldn't have got it wrong. Shmuel heard what they said, right? So, what did they say which leads us to think there's something negative? They say, give us a king who will judge us like all the Goyim.
Right. Also be to judge us. That's not the king's responsibility.
Oh, well, we'll see about that. Yes. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, they want a king to judge us like all the Goyim. So, the Malbim says like this. There's two ways to read that sentence. It depends where you put the pause. Meaning, often in a Hebrew sentence, you have said it in English as well, but often in a Hebrew sentence you have like a bracket in the middle of the sentence. So you could read that like this. They wanted a king to judge us, like all the goyim, meaning to judge us like kings judge goyim, or it means like this: we want a king like all the goyim to judge us.
We want a king to judge us like all the goyim. We want a king like the goyim to judge us.
Now, the difference between that is, if you say we want a king like all the goyim, it means we want a king like goyim have. Goyim have a king, we want a king. What's the job of this king? To judge us. Not to judge us like the goyim. No. We want him to judge us like the Torah. Right? The Torah has rules. We want the king to judge us based on the rules of the Torah. They're not saying we want him to judge us like the goyim. We want a king like the goyim. Like goyim have a king, we want a king, right? But his job is to judge us. That's one way to read it. The other way to read it is, we want a king to judge us like the goyim. Okay? So, let's take it one stage further. If you read it the first way, which if you want the king like the goyim to judge us, but we don't want him to judge us like goyim, so what system is he going to judge us if he's not going to judge us like goyim? The Torah, right? Then Shmuel says, then you're rejecting me. What's wrong with me judging you based on the Torah?
Isn't that weird that Shmuel would be like? It seems a little egotistical, kind of.
Well, that's only because you're looking at Shmuel as an egotistic person. But when we talked about Moshe Feinstein. Moshe Feinstein didn't want to have a pacemaker because that would exclude him from being a member of the Sanhedrin when Mashiach comes. Don't you think that's a big pal guy now? What, you really think they're going to pick you on the Sanhedrin? Yeah, there's nobody who knows more Torah than I do in the world. Obviously, they're going to pick me on the Sanhedrin. That's just being realistic. Right? So when you say you want a king to judge you, well, I'm Shmuel HaNavi. I'm not a big shot, but I happen to know more than anybody else around, which is the reason why God, when he wants to speak to someone, speaks to me. Right? So you're rejecting me. I don't feel bad, I feel, it doesn't feel bad in the sense that you feel bad when someone rejects you. Right? Because what are these people? They want Torah. They want the best Torah. They want just a minute. They want the second best when they can get the best. What's going on here? Why do these guys want the second best? I'm the best. Right? That's why he was upset. God said that's not what they meant. You read it wrong. They don't mean that at all. They want a different system altogether. It's not that they want the Torah, but they want the Torah a notch lower. Right? A king who will judge. They want a king to judge them like the goyim. Meaning, the system that he will judge them won't be a Torah system. That's how to read the system. See? Now, the truth is, it's not an un-Jewish concept. It means the king is allowed to judge based on different rules than the Sanhedrin do. Right? There is such a concept. Many times we've talked about it. We'll see other examples later on. Right? The king is allowed to judge based on, according to what he feels is needed for this particular society or whatever's going on. Okay? But that idea is a rejection of the Torah system. They want the king. So, although the king is allowed to do that only when it's really like martial law. Martial law is when the police or the army have the right to go beyond the law. So on very, very extreme circumstances, the king is allowed to do that. They want this king of theirs to govern them in that system. God says that's not rejection of Shmuel. They're a king. Shmuel, you're the best guy, right? Your Torah is the best. You give the best psak, the best halacha. But we don't want halacha at all. We want the Goyish system. That says God, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting me. They don't want the Torah system to lead them. That doesn't mean they don't want to keep the Torah. They're not saying that. They want them to wear tefillin and keep Shabbos. They're talking about that the king should be above the law and be able to rule just like Goyish kings do. You think Goyish kings... No, you want to wipe out this town because they don't like them, so you do that, right? We want our king to be able to do that as well.
The modern state.
What do you mean in the modern state?
Secular state.
What
Modern
about
state
it?
of Israel.
What about it?
It's a secular state, meaning
Therefore?
if someone lives in Israel, they're a religious person, they're not looking to Bibi Netanyahu.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it gives. Yeah, it's a little bit different because that's like completely secular.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a from king. We want a from king. We want a from king as a Talmud Chacham. We want he shouldn't be limited to the rules of the Torah, and he should be above the Torah system. I mean, just like Goyish kings are above the system, he should be above the system. Now, why would you want that in your country? Isn't that like negative?
Yeah, isn't that like against the Torah, obviously?
No, it's against the Torah, which is why Shmuel's upset, which is why God's upset as well, right? But don't think it's not personal, Shmuel. This is against me, not against you. But the idea, why should anybody want that system? Well, because that system you can abuse.
Well,
If you want to be
that
able,
system.
well, because people who feel that they have the ability to abuse the system, right, would rather a system like that. Yes.
Yeah.
You understand? There's an advantage. The guy in the street might not want
The
that.
average person, yeah,
Right,
but you were talking about that, like.
The guys who came were the elders,
Right.
right? So I don't know. Maybe there's an advantage to certain elements of society to have a king who's not governed by the laws of the Torah. And it could be a lot of people would go along with that because everyone feels that it'll come handy when I need it, right? It may be to your disadvantage because when you don't want it, it'll be handy for somebody else. Understand? So it's a system that's open to abuse, and people who like systems that are open to abuse vote for that sort of thing, and they're happy. Like, why did everyone bring the Ayatollah in the first place, right?
Well, that was.
Because those who were Muslims and fanatics thought that was good. Now maybe it's not turned out so good for them. I don't know. I don't actually know the politics in Iran, but I think that's part of what's going on over here. So that's the way the Malbim reads it. Suppose according to the Malbim, really Shmuel was a bit confused how to read their sentence. Is it a pause after the word L'Shavteinu? In which case, we want a king to judge us, just like the Goyim have a king, but not that he should judge us like the Goyim. Or does it read together? Lanu Melech, we want a king to judge us like the Goyim. So Hashem said, you read it one way. I think that people mean differently, and not rejecting it too. They agree that you're the great leader, right? But they want a different system altogether, and they have had it, which they think will serve to their
Why would
advantage.
Hashem tell Shmuel to listen to what they say?
Oh, good question. Absolutely good question. I think that by asking for this, they weren't deserving of the better system. The better system would have been to have the leadership of Shmuel. And that would have been less corrupt, less open to abuse. But if you don't want it, I'm not going to force it down your throats. If you want a system that's not so good for you, then, if you want to eat your chocolate cake, do it. It's not forbidden to have chocolate cake. You make a nice bracha on it, bracha achreina. You're just stuffing yourself with sugar, which is not good for your cholesterol or your heart, whatever it is. But it's not forbidden. God lets us do what's okay. It's okay. It's not the best way. And I wouldn't really, if they would have asked for a king, right, who will judge us, be subject to Torah halacha, and he'll be, second in command to the Sanhedrin. Perfect. That's what God was talking about over here, right? But they want a king who's like above it all, yeah, which may be more popular for maybe the idea of stability. Even it's more popular because the Sanhedrin can't remove him from office, okay? But it can also be abused, and as we see in Jewish history, well, in all history, monarchies abused their rights because they were above the law, and unfortunately, Jewish monarchies were no different. Some of them were great people. That doesn't stop them being great people. They may, but then when push comes to shove, right, then they may appoint their sons as kings who are not really fit for it. There's all sorts of things that could happen. So God says, look, if that's what they want, that's what they get. You want second best, you get second best. Because you think it's better for you. I'm telling you it's not. And he certainly warns them, right? Says you can do it, but I want you to warn them what they're in for if they do this system. So let's see.
Well, what are these? What's L'Shaf Tanu?
Oh, from the word shofet. Shofet is a judge. Shoftim is a judge. So shoftenu means to judge us. The nu at the end is us.
And the next word?
Yispalel, you know that word. And he prayed. Right, tefillah. And he prayed. So Shmuel prayed to God, and God answered him. And he said, listen to them. It's not you who they're rejecting, which would be one way of understanding what they're asking. It's me who they're rejecting from being a proper king over there. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Kachal ha'ma'asim, like all their actions. I mean, this just fits into a pattern of Jewish actions. Oh, they've been left Egypt 400 years ago, though, they were in this rebellious spirit. Let's be more goyish. Yeah? when they served the Egel, right? What, they were being more goyish, right? Not like the goyim and the Erev Rav who served the Egel, they were being like that as well. Okay. Like all their actions that they did, miyon, from the day, ha'aloisi, that I brought them up. Ha'aloisi, I brought them, mimitraim, from Egypt, from the day I took them out of Egypt. We don't say the word to take out, we say to take up from Egypt, because I was elevating them spiritually, right? They were in the depths of degradation. But Adayom is that till this day they've always been the same thing. Vaya azvuni, and they forsook me. Instead of clinging to me, went after other things, and now they're just doing the same. Maybe not as bad, right? In the previous times, during the times of the Shaitan, there were lots of times when they were serving Avodah Zarah. Okay, it's not that bad, but it's the same road that they're going down. Vayavdu, and they worshipped, or they served. Right? Literally means to serve as a servant, but we use it. They worshipped Elohim Achirim, gods of others. Cain means similarly. In modern Hebrew, Ken means yes, but there's no word for yes in Hebrew.
Really?
Yeah, you can't say yes in Hebrew.
Ken.
In modern Hebrew, you can.
Wait.
In Hebrew, if someone asks you a question, the way to say yes, if someone says, will you come with me? The answer is, I will come with you. Can't say Ken. Yeah. The word Ken doesn't really mean yes in Hebrew. In modern Hebrew, it does. Ken really means similarly. When Yosef accuses them of spying, yeah, his brothers, what do they say? Keinim anachnu. We are yes men? No, they're not yes men. We are correct.
We're like
we're honest. That's what they're saying. We're not spies. We're straight people, not crooked. So it doesn't really mean yes. It means straight, it's correct. What you're saying is correct.
So when Ben Yehuda was coming up with the modern version of the language, he just said,
oh, a lot of things changed. Yeah, you have to have a word for yes. Well, there wasn't in ancient Hebrew. You can understand, modern Hebrew is really a European language using the Hebrew roots. A lot of the grammar and the way sentences are constructed is the way you would construct a German sentence or a French sentence.
Really?
It's not Hebrew grammar.
Wait, almost like, let's say I speak modern Hebrew pretty well. Could I open this book up and...
Well, let's go. You tell me. Let's read. Vaya azvuni. Vaya azvuni. That means nothing in modern Hebrew. There's no vavahipuch. The vavahipuch changes the future into the past. Not in modern Hebrew, it doesn't. Almost every sentence in Hebrew, in the Tanach, almost every sentence has a verb written in the past, because the story's already happened, right? And it says a future change into the past by putting a vav ahipuch, converting vav. So,
Yes.
When was Navi read?
Well, it depends what you mean by that. Originally, it was written by Shmuel at the time before he died.
It was.
Then it was all put together and made into the Tanakh. It wasn't, added to the Tanakh as it was being written. Take the first sentence in this chapter, Vayehi. What does that mean?
And it
And it was.
And it was. Not in modern Hebrew, it doesn't mean that. Yehi means it will be. Vayehi means
And it will be.
and it will be. There's no converting vav in modern Hebrew. In modern Hebrew, you say v'haya. Haya is the past tense, right? You understand? So that haya is the past tense. So there's two ways you can say something was in Hebrew. You can either say haya, which means it was, or vayehi. Yehi means it will be, and the vav changes into the past. Most of the verbs in Tanakh are future verbs changing in the past with a vav.
Has there been efforts to bring modern Hebrew closer to biblical Hebrew, or no? Or not that you're aware of?
Why would that be? But doesn't mean we need to learn a whole other language when we leave here.
Like somebody said, I once read recently an article, it's like reading Shakespeare.
Right.
Yes, it's the same roots and the verbs more or less mean the same thing, but it's sort of a different language.
It's antiquated.
What? Right.
Antiquated.
There's this in English.
My uncle used to say, silly. The original meaning of silly meant beautiful. There's an island called the Scilly Isles. Now, it's spelt differently, but that's just
Wait,
because
yeah,
it means
there's,
it's SCI.
This
right?
islands.
Or gay. What does gay mean?
Happy. Well, it used to.
Well, it used to mean happy. It now means homosexual, right?
Queer also.
Yeah.
Weird versus
I'd explain.
Okay, so there's the same thing in Hebrew. The classical Hebrew is one language, a very holy language, and there's another language which Ben Yehuda modernized using that for whatever reason. Okay, let's continue. So, so azav means to forsake. Ya'azov means he will forsake. Ya'azvu, they will forsake. Ya'azvuni, they will forsake me. Vaya'azvuni, and they forsook me. I just changed it into the past with the vav. You get it? And they forsook me. That's 5 words in English. In Hebrew, it's 1 word. Vaya'azvuni. Vaya'avdu, and they worshipped Elohim Achim. Cain, similarly, not yes, similarly, Hema, they, Osim, are doing Gam Lach to you. I suppose that means just like in the past, since they left Egypt, they've been rejecting me, so they're doing now.
Hamas now. No.
Well, Lach means to you, but they weren't rejecting Shmuel. God just said they weren't rejecting Shmuel. It means in your time, just like they've been doing this for the past hundreds of years, now they're doing it as well. Ve'ata. But now, Shema b'kolam, listen to their voice. Look, like I said, I know that's the reason. If that's what they want, we'll give it to them. Ach means but. But. Ki, now here ki doesn't mean because, it also sort of means but. I'm not sure the difference, but. Okay. Ha'ed ta'id bahem, you should testify. An aid is a witness. So the verb to testify is leha'ed, to testify.
What happened to ad?
No, ad means forever.
Until.
Or till, yeah. Okay. Ad olam, sorry. Ad until forever. Sorry, you're right. Ad means, yeah. Va'ed can mean forever. Le'olam va'ed. What does that mean? Forever, ever.
Until.
So ad means until and forever. So those have a slight connection, until and forever, because until you get there, it's forever, right? You know? Forever, you're still not done there. But this is a completely different word. This is from the word aid, which means to testify, be a witness. I want you to witness them. Now, witness really means to warn them. When you warn someone, you're really witnessing what's going to happen before it happens. So that's the warning. If you do this, I'm telling you what's going to happen to you. So that's what it means. So we're using the word to testify, what it really means to testify what's going to happen, not testify what's already happened. In English, we say to warn. Warn them. Ha'ed ta'id bahem, you should warn them. V'higadeta lahem, and you shall higadeta. You know that word, magid? Say the night.
Shield.
To?
Shield.
No, that's magain. Magain is a shield, almost. Magid is a storyteller. When you tell the story on Seder night, Kadesh, Urchat,
Magid.
Right, Magid Rachta, right? Rachta, how's it go? Yeah, Magid, yeah, okay. So Magid is telling the story. So if you got it to them, you shall tell them, Mishpat, lehagid baboyke chasdecha, to tell over your kindness in the morning. Okay, it's a positive thing. Mishpat HaMelech, the law of the king, asher yimloich aleim, who will rule over them. He wants you to tell them the rules. You know, you want to have a king, you have to know what the rules of the king are. You may not be so happy when you find out what his rules or what his rights are. Not his responsibilities. That's great. No, the king's responsibility. He's got to look after the country. He's got to take a fight an army, right? That's great. But what advantage? What does he have the right to do? There's a little bit of a debate, I believe, whether we're talking here. Is this that he has the right to do? What he's going to do? You with me?
Yeah.
Mishpat HaMelech, what is the law of the king? Asher yimloich, Mishpat doesn't mean law, but this means his judgment. Which the king who will rule against you, what is he going to do? So I want you to tell them, and then you'll see if they still want this king. Shmuel, it's called Divrei Hashem. So Shmuel said all the words of God, Elam, to the people. It's interesting, I don't know why, because before they weren't called the people, they were called the elders of Israel. And now for some reason or other, their name is called which is the people. I don't know, maybe the movement changed from a limited request to a bigger request. I have no idea. Hashalim Oisai, who are asking Me'ito from him, Melech king. So Shmuel reported. What was the report? Okay, so I suppose he said, yeah, God agrees to a king, but I want to tell you first the word, the Mishpat HaMelech. What is the system? What are his rules? And he said, Mishpat, this is what will be the law of the king. Asher Yimloch Aleichem, who will rule over you. Es B'neichem Yikach, your sons.
Right now it's Shmuel.
Shmuel's now speaking to the people. He's telling them, you have to know what you're in for when you have this king that you so much want. Es B'neichem Yikach, your sons he will take. For what purpose?
War.
Let's see. The son lie, and he will place him, meaning your son. And he could have said it in the plural, but he's talking to each man, right? Your son he will take, and your son he will take. What will he do with them? He will place him b'merkavtoi, in his chariot. So you think that's for war, right? But not necessarily. Let's carry on.
A toy chariot.
Merkava. Okay. The word Merkava is the word rachav. Rachav means to ride. The verb rochev, you ride. Ride a horse is a rochev. Okay? And Merkava is the name of an Israeli tank. Right? Unfortunately, the concept is taken a very, very holy concept, which is God's chariot. Whatever that means, the first chapter in Isaiah, where Isaiah sees God on his throne, and there it's called Merkava. So Merkava means a chariot. So the king will take your sons and place them in his chariot. Uvefarashav. That's in this week's parasha. Horse riders, cavalry. So you can have chariots where the horses pull the chariot, but the guy sits in the chariot. The guy who actually sit on the horse, they're the cavalry. Okay?
That's why it says horse riders.
Parashav are horse riders.
I thought Sus was horse.
A sus is a horse, but this is horse rider. A parash is a horse rider. Parash. Yes, in English a jockey. What's a jockey? Horse rider, so there's a different word, right? Okay. So parashav is his cavalry. But what will they do? So you would think, well, they got out to fight. But it doesn't look like that. I mean, they might do, but that's not what the apostle says. Verotsu, and they will. Now, you might think this is the word to desire, okay, but it's not. It's from the word to run. Desire is ratzon, right? Lirutzot. To run is larutz. And the difference between them is very, very minimal. In this way, you write them the same. I think the only way to tell the difference is whether it's ratzu or ratzu. Did you hear the difference? Yeah. No. One's ratzu, one's ratzu. Right, one's the emphasis at the beginning, that's called mil-el. Ratzu, that's run. But if you mil-ra, means the emphasis at the end, which is ratzu. Most Hebrew words are stressed at the end. Right? And that's why chosnikim get confused, because they don't know how to. That's why the first thing you give away is even you put a nice Israeli accent, they can tell because you stress the words at the wrong end.
Right.
Right.
Like the old scrolls didn't count nekudos.
Right. So it's difficult to know, but the tradition happens to be from context. You can see what's going on over here. If you didn't know from context, you'd be able to see. In this week's parasha, a beautiful example. I didn't know why it was like this. I phoned someone up at the beginning of the week. In this week's parasha, it says, God took them around a circuitous route. He didn't want to take them the straight way from Egypt to the land of Canaan. What was he worried about? That they would see war and return to Egypt. It doesn't say run, right? It says return. And the word for return is vishavu mitzrayma.
I thought Hashem was initially planning on bringing them in 40 days, but they had the golden calf.
Still, doesn't do that. Correct. They maybe should have taken much less, but still he was worried they would see war and return.
So it could have been even less than 40 days?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, they were going to get the Torah. I mean, after the Torah was given, it could have taken them. Rashi says at the beginning of the Torah, it's 11 days' journey from Har Sinai to the land of Israel. But they got stuck in the middle. Anyway, Vishavu, it says they will return. So I asked one of the guys in the Kodal, shouldn't it say Vishavu? I was expecting to say Vishavu, because I thought the difference between Shavu and Shavu is one's future and one's past. Just like you say, V'nosan lanu Torah semes. What does that mean? V'nosan, God gave us the Torah. You don't say V'nosan, V'nosan. V'ohavta. I'm getting complicated now. You say in the Shema, Ve'ahavta. What does Ve'ahavta mean? You loved. Ve'ahavta, and you shall love. It only changes it if you say Ve'ahavta. If you say Ve'ahavta, put the stress at the beginning, it remains in the past.
How do you make it present tense?
Ohev, completely different. Okay? So, I phoned an expert up and he told me if it would say Vishavu, that would mean to be captured from a different verb. Vishavu means to return from the word shuv. Vishavu would mean and they capture. A shavui is a person who's captured. So it would look exactly the same, and the only way to differentiate is when it says shavu or shavu. Again, from the context you can see, obviously it's not being captured, it means to be returned to Egypt. The same thing over here. Veratzu means and they will run. Veratzu means they will desire. So here it means to run, so obviously it's written Veratzu. They will run, lifnei merkavta, in front of his chariot. Whose chariot? The king's. So what are your sons going to do? They're going to run in front of the king's chariot. Either run as runners, or they're going to be running in horses, right? But the point is, they're not necessarily going to fight in an army, which that would be a reasonable, justified demand that someone has to run the army. So one of the king's job is to run the army, right? But the king will take some of them for himself, and they'll. So you haven't been to Buckingham Palace? Buckingham Palace haven't changing the guards. What do the guards do? Nothing, just ceremonial. And there's the guards on horse guards parade with these big fancy funny hats, right? And there's all sorts of different people, and also part of the ceremony. Does the Queen really need the 1,300 rooms in Buckingham Palace? I don't know, maybe she does. Something like that. There's hundreds and hundreds of rooms there.
She doesn't need anything right now.
She's dead, right? Okay. All right. King Charles III, whatever. You know, these are the, now, clearly the king's entitled to a palace. I mean, clearly. I presume, right? I mean, that's a bit of an assumption, right? And he has to run the kingdom. He's entitled to collect taxes, to build roads and libraries and swimming pools and make those things run. But just because you like 56 Daimlers, right, or Rolls Royces or Ferraris, no, the king's not entitled to take public money for that purpose. But he might do it all the same, and I'm sure kings through the course of history have done that sort of stuff, right? So that's the question. Shmuel is telling them, what I'm saying is a little bit of debate. Is Shmuel telling them what the king's allowed to do? Or what he's going to do? I think there's a machlekes between Rav and Shmuel in the Gemara, what's going on over here. Okay, but you can appreciate that this may put them off, knowing that the king's going to do it. Take their children, their sons, to be in his chariot and to run in front of his chariot. Okay. Velasum, how are we doing for time? We're over time. Okay, that'll stop today. Thank you very much.